Unboxing careers. Unboxing.
Welcome everyone to the Unboxing Careers podcast, where we shed light on what different careers are really like so that you can choose a career you will really love. Today we're diving into the event production side of the industry with Benjamin Shrader. But before we do, let's talk briefly about unboxing thoughtful gifts. At thoughtfulcollection.com, you can shop from a wide selection of curated products you can feel good about, helping you express friendship, gratitude, and love. The next time you need to, don't just gift, give thoughtfully at thoughtfulcollection.com.
Where do I go? How do I know what I should do? Unboxing careers.
Okay, I'd like to welcome to the show Benjamin Shrader, CEO of the event production company. I knew I was not going to get this out today. Shrader Promotions. So I'm going to trip over this 5 more times. I don't know why. It's one of those words here. So Benjamin Shrader, CEO, event production company, Shrader Promotions. Benjamin, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's going to be a great time. We're going to share some of the insides of the event production industry. You want to put on your own concert? I'll tell you how, and a little bit of the chaos that can sometimes be behind it.
I love it. We just spent 5 minutes offline talking about the chaos and all the behind the scenes stuff here, which we were just kind of riffing on, which I love. So let's get into it. Let's do some level setting here, Benjamin. Promotions company. Why don't you talk to us about what an event promotions company actually is and actually does?
Most definitely. So I got my start because I had been, a quote unquote loser my entire life. I have very severe dyslexia. To this day, I read at about a 3rd grade reading level. And that can make you a real outcast. And when I got to college, I said, never again, that I'm not going to be an outcast anymore. And so I basically was part of a program called Startup Aggieland that helped students start businesses and build businesses. Was in that program, started a small promotion company, Shrader Promotions, where we basically were promoting different events that were going on. And so I started out really as your classic promoter, trying to do that type of thing with different concerts, because I said college kids like to party. If I control partying, college kids will like me. That was the simple deduction behind it. I saw, though, over time that being a promoter long-term really isn't sustainable. It's event production where the money is at, that's where most artists actually, and this also goes into people who want to be artists. People make very little money off the records. They make most of the money off concerts. So the people that can organize those events can make a lot of money and can really do well. So I started organizing my own concerts and also promoting or working with people on other shows. Over time, I was able to really take over the College Station market out there by Texas A&M in Texas. Then eventually, I was able to offer the College Station market to different companies, organizations. You have companies like Night Culture, like C3. They're the 2 largest event production companies in the state of Texas. I was able to really help facilitate things when they wanted to do an event in College Station. Via that, I expanded to Austin, Houston, started doing a lot of work in Houston. I'm from the Austin area, so I moved back to Austin, living out in the Domain. It's a nice part, nice place. And so been putting on a lot of shows out here in Austin. We expanded to San Marcos. I've been doing a lot out there with some wonderful people. So yeah, that's kind of how it all kicked off and how I really got into this of organizing concerts are specifically the sort of events that I specialize in. We've worked with artists like G-Eazy, Wiz Khalifa, and then when on the countryside, Parker McCollum, Co Wetzel, and many others.
So how do you actually start that? I know you said you were in a program that kind of helped you there, but okay, you get the program. Do you go knocking on doors at venues? Are you trying to solicit artists to rep you? Like, what is the actual step one to actually get into that?
In the very beginning, I was out every single night when I first wanted somebody to basically bring my company on. To starting off, it was just for promoting their events, and then it would turn into coordinating them. I was out on a place called Northgate. That's the bar district. And when everyone else was going out partying, drinking, studying, I went out there in a suit and I was shaking the hands every single night of bouncers, managers, anybody I could talk to, trying to get a phone number, trying to talk to the owner or the manager, whoever had the authority to bring me on. And eventually, there was one owner that took a liking to me, and I was able to start off with doing things for him. And in a few months, we had greatly increased the sales of the bar by really making it a hot spot to be and doing a lot of work, bringing in fraternities and sororities and things like that. It's very stressful working with the Greeks, but I do love them. They're good customers, though. I find it a little stressful. I'm not a party person myself. I'm secretly a nerd who loves history, but I wanted to be quote unquote popular. So I said, well, this is the avenue to do it. But you have to be persistent. I got rejected so much. I was like, get out of here, kid. What are you doing? And at this time, I'm 18 as well. And many of the different bars that I was seeking to work with are, 21 and over. But very importantly, and this is something I would tell to any of the students listening, I would never drink. I would never do drugs. The reason being, one, you don't want to stress the bar. So a lot of people who get into this industry of event production and event promotion. They get into it to party. That is a massive mistake. This is a serious business where you are offering a service to your clients, and those clients are offering something to the general population. I would never do that. And I, to this day, will never drink if I am putting on an event. If I'm working, I am there to do a job. And that's a very important thing to remember in this industry because you're surrounded by that all the time. So really, it's persistence. It's being out there and separating yourself from the crowd. I had a bad website. I had bad business cards, but I had a website and I had business cards. I had briefly worked with a competitor of mine who eventually I wiped out. But that we won't get into that. We won't get into that. But he didn't have an LLC. He didn't have a company behind this, and the liability. You don't want to get sued. You don't want to have a problem like that. Well, I'm not a lawyer, but don't take my advice. But doing things at a venues does put some of the liability on them. But also, it's important to have a company for legitimacy, if nothing else, but also, of course, the protection. So through Startup Aggieland, they had helped me start an LLC. So then I had an actual company, and I was able to go out in my suit. That was my brand. That was how I separated myself from all of the other people who would want to do something similar. There were many different people at the time who wanted to do similar things, but nobody brought the element of this is a serious business. This is the serious business that nightlife is. It's not a party time. It's a stressful, difficult, late night, but rewarding if you can succeed in it. And I'll share a little aside, God bless my freshman year roommate, because I'd get back at 3 a.m. on the phone in my suit, all sweaty and disgruntled. I wasn't a very good roommate between you and me.
So how do you work with the venues or the artists? Like, what are you primarily working with? You primarily working with venues, artists now, or is it kind of a mixed bag?
As a full service event production company, and that's probably the best way to describe what I do. I am going to usually a lot be working with either companies or fraternities, sororities, but as of late, it's been a majority of companies who are wanting to put on an event. Now, if I'm doing an event completely independently, I will sometimes just be financing that myself and, making a profit off ticket sales and things like that. Or I, will have different sponsors and deals we've made for advertising to be putting on sort of a solo Shrader Promotions event. Sometimes I'll work with a band and be booking them, and sometimes I'll work with a venue to be getting them bands to come in. But the majority of it are companies and organizations that I will be coordinating a full show for. So they will come to me, or I will come to them proposing this. They come to me with a budget. I basically give them a list of artists that I can get. And how I got the list that I can get, of course, you can work with booking agencies and things like that. And that's great, but you're going to pay an arm and a leg. If you have a connection directly to the management, how I got those over time, and this is for, a limited list, but a quality list of, people like Jeezy, Parker McCollum, that I would meet a DJ who worked with their DJ. I would meet their DJ who would introduce me to the manager. It's a very personal-based industry. And I will caution anyone wanting to go into it, it is very difficult to scale because I have sent my employees to events and the manager has been like, where the heck is Benjamin? And so that is, it is difficult to scale. So basically, I will have my budget. I will contact sound people if needed, or if the venue has it. You got to do on the ground operations a lot. So I got to go survey a venue beforehand. I got to talk to management, make sure that we're all good, because sometimes management and things like that can feel a little disgruntled if their owner is hiring this external company to do their events. It's like they weren't good enough. So you gotta make sure to butter everybody up and make sure that there's no conflict there. And it's a firm believer in a little phrase I use a lot: kindness is the new currency. Of course, kindness won't pay your bills, but it helps a lot to be nice and to be polite and to be deferential, but forceful enough to get what you need to get done. So I'll go in, I will book the venue on a certain day, I will book the artist. We will then be selling tickets. If it's an event for a company, there might not be any ticket sales, but if there are, which there often are, then I'm getting a percentage of those ticket sales. I usually negotiate 10 to 25%, somewhere in between there, depending on how big the people are that I'm working with. So if it's a really big artist and I really want to make this show happen, I might only be getting 10 to 15% of the overall sales. If it's a smaller group where I'm like, okay, I will give you guys a shot, but I want to make it worth my while, then it might be something like 25, 30%. I really wouldn't go any higher than that, just because when you get past that, it makes it kind of difficult to actually book people.
Very good. So walk us through a little bit, if you can, what a week might look like for you. So I know this is going to vary based on probably seasonality of markets and stuff like that, but if you could best ballpark what a typical week looks like. How much are you on the phone, in meetings, doing computer stuff? Walk us through if you can.
One thing that I did forget to mention was that Instagram promotion and reaching out to students through Instagram, on the sense of doing ads or just building up a good following, is critical. If you want, or whatever social media is your favorite, build a good following on that. And if you're able to do that, then that will help you a lot with legitimacy. My Instagram is my resume. I show that to bars, companies. I think I have like 50K something on there. It's at Benjamin Shrader, of course. But basically, my week would consist of, I usually get up 8 or 9. I will then usually have a 2-hour phone call almost every day with, I have 3 different almost assistants that I work with. Now, the reason being is because of my dyslexia, I do have some difficulties, and I do have to put resources to curbing that, because it is something I struggle with. I can't really write effectively. My teachers used to call it chicken scratch.
I still have that.
Yeah, same. And I never got spelling. And I rely on voice to text and text to speech for everything.
Okay.
So I'll meet with those people. I'll reply to all my emails. We'll then write out video scripts, or really bullet points for me. I couldn't read a script. So we will reach out to different venues if we've got something going on. Now, let's say we've got a show, because a lot of times we'll have a show. So we'll get the Instagram promotions ready. We'll get the Facebook promotions ready. Excuse me. And then usually, let's say, we hit Tuesday. Monday's been a day of basically working remotely, but online, meeting with people, making phone calls to different people. Really, and you got to stay on top of people a lot in the nightlife, because there is an element of, I would say, the majority of people are effective, but there is an element of sometimes people who can maybe have achieved their position through, I'll just say it, through nepotism or through, things like that, where you're dealing with maybe the son or the daughter, or the owner's their grandfather. And I've encountered that a lot. And it's been people who like owning a bar because it makes them feel cool, but are not effective. Then sometimes there are people who are in that position, but really work hard and do amazing job. There was a place in College Station like that where the guy, his father was the owner, but he was the manager, and he did a great job. So if I'm going to be having an event, we just had one at couple days ago. Big event, was a great time. I had gone a couple days before, and I had gone during the day to survey the venue. And basically, I met up with the general manager. We'd gone in through the back, and I just made sure, okay, the green room is ready to go for the artists. It looks good. What sound cables? And I don't know any of the tech, if I'm being honest. So I was literally picking up cables and taking a picture of it and sending it to the band's manager. And I was like, is this the right thing that plugs into their CDJs? Or, that's the little spinny discs that DJs use. It's the CDJs. So doing all that and then making sure that we're all good for that day, that everything's locked in, everything's ready to go. A day that I have an event is going to be really getting the social media right and making sure that everything works, having your Bitly link to track things, having your Eventbrite page, making sure that that's 100% correct. There's many different apps and companies that do ticket sales. I really like Eventbrite because they are very easy to use. They do take a percentage of your sales, but they're very easy to use. There's a couple like Posh and Dice, but I'm not as much a fan of them. They're good, but I prefer Eventbrite. That day is really going to be, okay, make sure everything's ready. Are my camera people ready to go? I usually have, if it's a big event, I will almost always have some photographer or videographer. That's more important for social media because I used the last event to say, look how cool this one was. Now, the next one's going to be even better. You better be there. Buy your tickets now, yada, yada. I'm going to make sure that those people are ready to go. I'm going to touch base with the band and the artists because sometimes, they're going to give me an aneurysm. Some are amazing. Some are an absolute pleasure to work with. Other times, not as much. The band we just did the show with, incredible. Absolute pleasure to work with. Very easy. And that's why I'm doing a lot of different shows with them. We've had other very well-known artists in the past that we've done shows with or shows for. And it's been very stressful. So it's making sure that everybody's ready to go. Everybody's up, even at 5 p.m., and that everybody is ready to go. Then I'm arriving at the venue very early. I usually am going to get to the venue an hour, maybe 2 hours early. This is a big thing for people wanting to go into this, is that you are going to be waiting around for hours. I have waited around for, I believe we were doing a music festival for a company that wanted basically promotion of it and then us to help kind of manage things on the back end for them. I waited, 5 or 6 hours at the venue beforehand because they had sound people arriving at 9, and then they had artists arriving at 5, and they had all these different things where I kind of needed to be there because if I'm not there or if my people aren't there, then it's very difficult to make sure that it's going right, that people are actually doing what they need to do. And, I'm very nice about it. You have to be. But at the same time, it's hard to make sure that things are going right when you're not there. When a show's going on, I'm going to be making sure that my cameraman that's focusing on the band is all ready to go. And then I usually let the experts, as I say, do their job. You find good people and then you let them do their job. You don't really micromanage them. So like that, I'll say, okay, buddy, I trust you. You know what shots to get. You know what looks good. Go forth and conquer. And then I will have my, let's say, secondary videographer who's going to be with me. And that's going to be a lot of shots for my social media. And he's going to be following me around. I'm mic'd up, which also gives a air of legitimacy. Funny enough, the guy walking around with a mic and one of those packs on and a wire and a suit directing things. People are much more open to, listening to you. I'm going to talk to all the bouncers. I'm going to talk to all the management. I'm going to say hello to the bartenders in the sense of I'm basically saying, anybody needs anything, you come to me. I'm happy. We'll talk about it. We'll fix things. We'll work them out. So then event happens. I make sure it goes smoothly. When it all wraps up, make sure that the artists are happy. Tell them they did a great job. We might all hang out in the green room for a little bit. A green room is basically where artists and the talent basically hangs out before and after shows. Then everything wraps up, and it's usually nightclubs and things like that close at 2 in Texas. I believe it's similar in most places, but they close at 2, and we don't get done usually till like 3. And then you're out of there, and then it's time to call an Uber or drive back home. And one thing, too, for anyone going into this or interested in the nightlife at all, be very careful of bars and things like that, because bar sales across the board are in a decline, and a substantial decline, and they have been for the last 20 years. Millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha do not go out on a Friday and Saturday night just to party, but they do go out to see concerts. And that is why so many bars and so many venues are very excited to have concerts, because it drastically increases their sales. Bottle service, the way that we know it, wasn't a thing 20 years ago. It was more champagne and things like that. But bars need to sell more because they have a genuine problem. So I wouldn't go into running a bar. I would go into booking the concerts for that.
So you mentioned very thorough answer, so I appreciate that.
Forgive me, I get excited.
Hey, that's all right. The more you talk, the less I talk, and we're in good shape here. So you mentioned all these different people on your staff. You're talking about Instagram ads, which you may be really good at. You may have a consultant or, someone doing that for you.
Me enough. I don't know if I do a great job even, but they're relatively easy to kind of set up.
So with videographers, all this other staff, who is paying for that? Is that coming out of the venue's budget? Are you paying for that out of your cut? Walk us through. It could be super high level, but where's that money generally coming from?
Most definitely. So the majority of the business's money comes from 2 sources. One, it's brand deals. So we do a lot of different promotional and brand deals with sponsors. Like we just had a deal with Hexclad. We'll have a lot of different local companies. We have 2 different ones that I'm talking to right now for the next event, who are going to basically be getting an ad spot on the flyer, who are going to say sponsored by yada yada. So that brings in a nice chunk of change. The other is going to be coming from the percentage of the ticket sales. And then another avenue, which, can be a good one, but you always want to be careful with, is you can get a percentage of bar sales if you negotiate it well and if the venue likes you a lot. So those are kind of the main ways. The main ways are really sponsorships and ticket sales. And then also we'll book a lot of DJs. That's one of the things we do with many, many different venues all across the state. And then we're getting 20% of their sort of nightly revenue, which is nice because that is a constant stream of income coming in. Then we'll have these big events, where you might make, one event that we did, it was 30,000 in ticket sales, and we got just semi-recently, a couple months ago, and then we got 25% of that. So that's a nice chunk of change coming in. And then, I only have 2 full-time people, and everybody else are contracted on. So there's not a ton of overhead, luckily. That's how we survived the pandemic, was that a lot of these companies have massive staffs and are much bigger than us, because there are not many sort of independent event production companies. So, that's how we survive, because luckily the expenses aren't too much on the back end. There'll be a lot the day of an event, but Instagram ads and things like that, you can hit 1,000 people for $100. Which is very well worth it if you're selling tickets that are $35, $25. You can make that money back relatively quickly. You only need 4 people to buy a ticket. If it's 25, and boom, you've made your money back. And then, of course, if it's a full Shrader Promotions event, then I'm taking 100% of the ticket sales. And I just have to pay the artist. I just have to pay people.
Okay, so the venue is pretty much paying you a cut to bring them business, book stuff for them, and all the other expenses are coming out of your cut there.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned sometimes if you got the right owners, you can negotiate a percentage of bar sales, right? So part of it, What about like trying to find the way to phrase this the best way possible? What about someone maybe new getting into this that if a venue says this, it's a red flag for you?
Oh boy. Yeah, there are a lot. There are a lot of different red flags. I would,
How about the most common one?
yeah, let me think. I would say that really, this is going to be a strange answer. Actually, not a very strange answer. So, the sort of two things. One, you want to, whichever bar you're talking to, you want to do a simple Google search on the owner and the venue beforehand to make sure that they haven't had a lot of lawsuits, to make sure that they haven't had a lot of problems. You can also look for Texas specifically, I believe every state has this, but you can look at things like the TABC and things like that, which is the Texas bar, something to do with that. I forget the acronym, but basically that's where all bar sales have to be released, and they're the organization that investigates venues and things like that whenever there's issues. And you always want to stay good with those people, that's very important. And pay your taxes, that's also very important. But I would say that probably is the biggest issue if you notice that there have been a lot of issues with either other bands or if they've had investigations on them, that you want to avoid those venues. And I guess the next part of that is going to sound, it's going to sound not as concrete. The vibe. If the person seems really sketchy, they probably are. And you want to avoid very, very seriously, and you want to be very careful to avoid working with people that have a very bad reputation or seem like they're going to I'm trying to think of an appropriate way to say this, seem like they're going to bleep you over. That is a big part of it. I've ignored my instincts on things and it's cost me. I have said, I really want to do a show. I really want to make this happen here. And it's not been good. It's not been far from ideal. The second part of that, or I guess that would be the third part, really is as you become more established and you talk to people who are also in the industry, when you hear things, if you hear somebody's not a very good person repeatedly, then that can sometimes be a very good indicator that that person isn't a very good person. And so keeping your ear to the ground, making sure that you're up to date on what's going on, who likes who in this web of everything, can be a very good indicator of what to do and who to work with. Of course, sometimes I like working with bars that are or venues that are not doing as well because there's opportunity there for me to make them do better and get a better deal. So really judging, is it their fault that they're doing badly? Are they doing something wrong? And then I guess finally, the moment you get an inkling of anything illegal, get out of there. Avoid that like the plague. And if it's well known that someone is abusing substances or something like that, avoid working with them. They're not reliable. And you don't want to get caught up in anything bad. That's a very big thing. I'm extremely careful to always be above board, because especially in an industry that can sometimes be a little sketchy, if you bring a level of legitimacy and you bring that I'm good, I am trustworthy, I'm easy to work with, and I avoid illegal things, then that helps a lot. Like, that's so important that I can't even put it into words. And don't do
I'm sure the venue wants, like, you want the trustworthy person. I'm sure the venue wants the trustworthy person as well, right? So it's a two-way street there. So I like the answer. How about your favorite part of your job and your least favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job is to see the work that one's put in, to see everything that's been done on the back end come alive. I don't think a lot of people get that. You might do a massive project or a massive deal, but you don't get to see it. I mean, you might see it in your bank account, but you don't get to see it. I get to see that I've been working on this show for 2 months, and then it comes, and I get to see this massive display of the work put in. Also, too, something very, very arrogant of me that I do like is I've had the great honor a few times from social media to get recognized. There's nothing like it. I mean, they were like, oh, you're Ben Shrader, and take a picture with me, say Shrader Nation and all that nonsense that I do. That is a good feeling. I would say the least favorite part of my job, a joke answer would be getting out of there at 3 a.m. when all the nonsense is going on and there might be sirens in the distance and things like that. I would say the least favorite part of my job is the in-between. It is the waiting to make sure that things are locked down. It is when you're in an email chain with a venue and an artist, and it's not yet locked in, but it's so close. That in between right there stresses me immensely, and I dislike it a lot, and I want to just either know, okay, is this not going to work out, or is this going to work out? Because if I have been putting a lot of work into something, to get it basically to the point where I know it's going to happen, and then it doesn't, that is frustrating. And I would say that's probably my least favorite thing, because it is, it can be a little stressful, especially if you're getting things in motion and somebody cancels, things like that. I dislike a lot.
I'm sure. All right, I'm going to ask you like a 6-part question here, so bear with me.
Oh my God, I better listen.
And if you're like me, I'll forget like question 3 and beyond. So
okay,
I'm trying to find a way to frame this, and I wanted to go into like, what's the typical path to get into it? Is the best course to work for a promotions company or event company to kind of learn the ropes and then branch out? Is it to follow what you did, find some sort of path to get into, like an organization that can help you funnel it? Is it to jump in feet first? So that's part of it. But if you can rope in to the answer, maybe advice for someone who's considering this, they just know they love events and they're maybe in high school. And then kind of step 2, you're going to have more opportunities when you're in college. You're going to be older. You're going to have more options here. So walk us through, if you can, I don't even know what I'm asking here. Walk us through a way to get like the best path for people to kind of get into the industry, but also apply that down to high school kids and then maybe 18 plus.
Yes. First off, many wish to be mentors, few are worthy. If you're finding a mentor, which I do think is a very good thing, it is very hard to find a good mentor. I have found many, and I've found some that are lacking. And then I found some that are really great. I know there's Brendan Anthony's the music czar of Texas. He's amazing. Amazing man. Did a lot for me. A man named Jose was a venue owner. He taught me so much. Mr. Hagel, another venue owner, who in the very beginning taught me so much. Like those 3 men did so much for me. And then, of course, there was a woman named Shelly Brinkman, who was the leader of Startup Aggieland. She was incredible because the more you put in, the more she'd give you. Those 4 people, amazing. Amazing people. I would say when first getting into it, let's say you're in high school still, there is a little bit of a difficulty of that to kick things off, it's good to be 18. However, you can learn a lot about the industry before you're 18. Basically, where you go to school, if you're looking at college, and I still am a pro-college guy. I know that a lot of entrepreneurs, things like that, are not pro-college. I feel it brings a lot of legitimacy, credibility, and also the aspect of you meet a lot of great people. I made so many connections in college that I would not have made otherwise. Of course, you can try to find a program like Startup Aggieland, or I believe it's called the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship now, and there are a good few other programs like it now to help you really get into things. But you're going to want to research the industry. You're going to want to come to understand it. You're going to want to, when there are events going on, like out here, South by Southwest is a big event where a lot of the venues and bars will be open to the public and there'll be different things going on. You're going to want to go out to those. You're going to want to see how it's going on. You're going to want to try to meet and talk to people that you can. Then once you hit 18, you could go work at a bar. You could do those type of things, but that's not always ideal. You could go work for a company like C3 or Night Culture. That's much more ideal. I almost did that. I almost worked for night culture, but I ended up, I would have had to drop out of school, and I said no. Then I don't want to have to do that. I ended up having to take a year off because I had a brain tumor my junior year of college, but that was, and then I finished it up. So, but that's totally unrelated. The working for them is a very good option, but if you can basically start on social media by growing your social media and offering that promotional side of it, you grow it amongst your friends, you grow it amongst the college students, by following and unfollowing the real tedious stuff. Because don't buy fake followers, it'll mess up all your analytics. There is no real way to do it without doing like the difficult long process that I know of. I forget what it is, but it's like 150 changes can be made every 2 hours on Instagram. So it's following 150 people, then unfollowing some of them and following a few more every couple hours for weeks to help build yourself up, and then post every day. That's a very important thing. Have your posts ready to go. Use specific hashtags, use your location. Change your Instagram to either like a influencer account or a business account, these type of things. Now, I focus on Instagram because it's what I know best, but whatever social media you're wanting to do. YouTube's the easiest to monetize, but it's the most difficult to have a targeted base, sort of. I like to have a location that is my base of operations, a city. It used to be College Station. Now it's Austin. That's my base of operations, where I can do on-the-ground operations, where I can get to know people, where I can build a good following. I like that a lot, having that. So you're building up, and I would try to find, and this can be hard, especially in bigger cities. But if you're in a smaller city, this can be much easier. Try to find an owner, a manager who can take you under their wing. There's a man I did a lot of stuff with for many years named Mason. And he really took me under his wing. He showed me a lot of the ropes in the inside of the industry. And then Brendan Anthony as well showed me more of the kind of bigger scale side of it. Finding that is hard. And if you're not very outgoing, it's still doable because so much goes into social media. And I don't always do enough on social media, even because I'm, as you'd never guess, I'm a talker. It's the one thing I can do. But if you can find someone in real life to take you under their wing, and even if you could find it online, but real life is ideal, that helps a lot in learning the industry, in learning the ropes of it, in learning what mistakes are made. And once you find that, and you can really start getting into that, you can also try partnering with a smaller band or a smaller DJ where you're booking them. You're their booking agent. You get a percentage of it. Your friend likes to DJ. Well, tell him, hey, buddy, you're going to start taking this seriously. I'm getting 20% of your what you make, and I will book you at all these different places. And then it's a matter of doing the work. Call in the venues, email in the venues, get a good email, and have a specific Gmail that's just for your work. Don't have a, BillyBob@hotmail.com. Don't have that. Have, John Booking, .llc@gmail.com. Do that. And then walking, on the street of the, to the different venues. Don't walk in the street, but, to the side of it. Go to the venues, say, hello, my name is Benjamin Shrader. I run an event production company. I would love to do an event here at your venue. Do you have the number of the manager? Is the manager here? If not, can I get a number? They won't give you a number. Number is the best, but if they won't give you one, get an email at least. And so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you have something that separates yourself, like you're in a sport coat, you're in a suit, you're in a dress shirt, that's great, but that's more what I did. And that's kind of like it worked for me, but it might not for you. But dress, not professionally, but dress nicely, look good, talk good, look good. And that helps a lot. So on the ground operations, and then slowly you start building up. Okay, I've done 2 shows with these people. Let's see if we can get a better deal with this venue, or let's see if we can get a better deal with this artist. Find those people, and especially bands, that's a great thing to start off, working directly with bands or working directly with DJs. then start reaching out to some organizations. You see companies had an event, say, oh, let me send them an email. Just try. And then fraternities and sororities are an option if you were either in one. I was never in one myself. I just worked with all of them. And I had a good friend of mine who was the IFC president, which is the leader of all the fraternities. We had myself, the IFC president, and the student body president. We'd call it the triumvirate. But that's just me making historical parallels. But if you have a way to work with them and understand that you're not a part of them, but you're offering them a service, you reach out to them, you say, hey, we'd love to do an event for you. I can offer you a better price than anybody in town. And this venue that I partner with can offer you a better price than anybody in town. Try one event here and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, that's how I would say starting off.
Oh, that's great advice. Quick follow-up on the mentor thing. So you said find the mentor really hard to do, but find one in the latch on. Is it a matter of just asking, or is it just kind of comfort level? Hey, we've worked together for 5 times and I kind of feel the relationship has gone from here to here. Like, how do you just ask, or is it more of a natural evolution where it becomes evident that that person could be your mentor?
So I've never asked anyone to be like, I've never said that. That's a good point. I've never said like, oh, will you be my mentor? It was always a matter of what I could offer them. And even if that offer was just making them feel good by explaining to a kid and taking a kid under their wing, it was, maybe I should have asked people that. I don't know, but your listeners maybe should try it. That might make people feel good, because it was very much a matter of people like being mentors. A lot of people like having someone to teach, but sometimes there'd be people, who'd been out of the industry for 20 years and were like, what's the interwebs? Or those type of things. And those people aren't always ideal. But I would say it was more a matter of what I could offer them. I think the exception to that was Brennan Anthony. He was a very kind man, took a liking to me and took me under his wing. For everyone else, it was that I offered something good. And I don't mean to make it sound so bad, but I offered something to them. And in return, they were offering something very valuable to me, their teaching, by working with them. So it's a matter of, if you have a good social media following and you can say, I can help increase the sales of your bar, and then the people are taking you under their wing, and then you're working more and more and just talking with them, spending time with them, maybe you say, if things are looking good in the bank account that week, you say, oh, hey, let me take you out to dinner, boss. I'd love to get to know you better. Or they might offer to do that for you. And so it's becoming friends with, or acquaintances with, influential people, and being deferential and showing the proper level of respect, but not kiss ASS. ASS, excuse me. There's a lot of value in becoming acquaintances / friends with the influencers in an industry. If you can do that, that's extremely helpful. And if you can make those people feel good, a lot of times I'll always be like, oh, hey, boss, how you doing today? That's a simple thing, but it shows deference. It shows a level of, I am recognizing that I'm underneath you, and even though I might not be directly working for you or even though we might have just done a couple events together and I'm not your employee, I'm like, oh, hey, boss, how you doing? Good to see you as always. Things like that are how I was able to kind of get my teachers. And, be careful, find a good one. Don't go for somebody incompetent.
So I love what you said there about, hey, boss, right? How's it going, boss? Right? Because I think that's the one thing, especially now, maybe I'm just more aware of it now, but if you have your own XYZ company, in this case, event production company, you might be thinking to yourself, I'm a CEO, I run my own thing, right? Regardless of the size of it. And you put yourself on an even pedestal with them. Sometimes that's warranted, but it's getting rid of the ego. Right. And a lot of times the ego is what holds people down, holds people back. So I love the fact you said it. I think it's really impactful. I think regardless of the type of company or position you're in, check the ego at the door.
I completely agree. I have an ego on social media because that shows off to people that I'm able to put on good events and that they want to come to it. And a bodacious personality helps with how the content does. But in real life, no. I am but a humble servant. And I very rarely say the CEO thing. I say I run an event production company because there's a lot of fake entrepreneurs out there too, who are like a CEO of anybody can be a CEO. Like it's not that hard to say you are or become one, but you're not actually one because it's not a real company or it's not actually generating revenue, that it's not a
Right.
legit thing. It's be humble, be nice, and be deferential. And it's okay to bend the knee. Like in the beginning, I was always making sure to go the extra mile in the sense of I'd wipe a thing down for a little bit. I'd make a show of doing it. Or I know that something that happened the other day, and this is almost embarrassing because this is very recent, but the guy had left his coffee cup in the owner of this place, big place out here in Austin, had left his coffee cup in a room. And he was like, oh, he asked one of his employees to go get it. I was like, oh, let me. And I went and I filled it up. And then I brought it back and he said, wow, oh, thank you. And it's little things like that, like check the ego, and it's check the ego so that you can have a bigger ego later. That is important.
I would say it's the small, simple things that matter. So it's a good example
I agree.
of it.
I make a joke that when a leader is not willing to do something, someone from that position will bury a dagger in his back. You need to be willing to do everything.
Yep, 100%. So, Benjamin, how about some common misconceptions about working in your industry? You covered a couple of them already, right? Covered some warning flags. How about some common misconceptions that maybe you haven't spoken about yet?
Yes, I would say a big one, a simple one, really is that it's a party, that it's a great time for the people putting on the event, and even that it's a great time for the artists. It can be, but it's a lot of work and it's stressful. And you got to make sure that everything's going right. When I'm at an event, on Instagram or on social media, it'll look like I'm having a great time. But I'm showing the best clips. I'm not showing the clips where I'm, going around saying, okay, why is this off? My gosh, get that sound better. Good Lord, why is that popping so much? The mic. That it's not a party. You're there to work. You're there for a job. That's a big thing of people that are going into events or going into nightlife or becoming artists. A lot of DJs, God bless. I'm glad I'm not one. I have no musical talent, never was going to do that. I said, oh, it looks cool, but I was never going to be one. They have it tough. A lot of times they're either sitting around waiting or they're playing to a bar with 5 people in it. And that can be a rough feeling. So it's not always a party, but you got to stick with it, and you have to basically just push through those bad nights. And I've had events, I'd never admit it, but we'll have a little secret between you, me, and your audience. I've had events that didn't go so well. Long time ago, of course. But when an event doesn't go well, that's not a good feeling. One for the bank account or for yourself. Of course, that's why you always keep a good reserve in case things do go badly. But you just have to keep going, move on, and try to make it look like it wasn't a bad event. So,
Excellent.
Other misconceptions that come to mind, I would say, people may think that just because you meet a famous artist or something like that. I had a very auxiliary role in an event a few years ago where I had the opportunity to meet Lady Gaga. She was extremely nice. I was a little nervous. I called her Miss Gaga, which she found very funny, and I took a picture with her, and that picture helped my career tremendously. But I don't know Lady Gaga. I don't know a lot of these famous people. For people like G-Eazy or Wiz Khalifa, I might know their secondary manager, but I don't know them. Or if I've had pictures, I've met G-Eazy, he was super nice, but I don't know him. So that might be a misconception. You don't always know these people, but you might have a good picture. Social media always looks better than real life. It has to for the business.
Right. So my son wanted me to ask you a question. He said, Dad, who are you talking to today? And I told him, and he said, okay, you need to ask this question. So it has nothing to do with a career.
Okay.
But here you go, Connor. What is the weirdest event that you've put on?
Oh my goodness. Well, Connor, there are a couple. I would say Oh, this is tough. There definitely have been a couple. I almost worked on a silent concert where the people wear like headphones and listen
Okay.
to their
Yep.
own music and then hop around. But I ended up not going through that. There were a couple online only events companies wanted to do. I told them they were bad ideas and they didn't go well because people want a live atmosphere. Maybe, I branched some into the pop punk space, but that hasn't been so weird. I would say I think I have it. I'll give you two.
Okay.
One was I was not working this event. I was not putting this on, but I had been invited out by the owner to see the venue and to see it while a show was going on because we were going to be doing a venue. The band that was going to play, I was backstage and I'd been chatting with them all, and then I went out to the audience and I'm sitting in the back looking cool, or maybe not looking cool. The band that was going to play ended up, for some reason, I think the guy's like wife was giving birth or something. They canceled. And they sent up a filler. And this person got up and just screamed into the microphone for 10 minutes. And I mean, I am unintelligible. And the audience is like looking around. And I remember I have my earplugs in. Always wear earplugs. That's very important. Get good ones. And, they are in a little case. I have these ones and they're plastic and I can pop them out. And I remember just watching them and I said, oh, wow, that's something. And then I guess the other one would be a very, very famous rapper. And I won't say who because this isn't allowed. I'm in a suit. He's there, and he offered me to puff on something with him. And I was very awkwardly. I just looked at him, and I had my hands like this or like this, and I was like, "Oh no, sir, you enjoy." And yeah, maybe that one, but there have been a lot of weird ones. A lot of times of me just sitting around waiting for things to happen or making sure that things are going right. So I would say those two stick out in my mind, and I'm sure after this podcast I'll have to text you because something will come to me that I forgot. There have been so many weird events
Awesome.
that it's hard to keep track.
Awesome. Before we wrap up, Benjamin, I want to talk to you. I know, just reading your bio, I know it's there. You mentioned it very early on. You have dyslexia. You said you read it at third grade level. So this conversation doesn't need to be around dyslexia, but there are going to be people at all walks of life, at all ages, and all stages that have different sort of disabilities and to different degrees. So can you just spend a moment talking about like overcoming those, whatever that disability is, things that maybe worked for you to help you overcome it? And like, I'm sure it's tough when you're in high school and people are reading and you're stuck here way behind. You mentioned you just want to be liked, but I'm sure that is tough from a ego standpoint, from a self-confidence standpoint, from an actual work standpoint, and school standpoint, right? So long intro for you, Benjamin, but talk for a minute just about how you overcame things like that to just be, part of my language here, but just be normal, right? Just to find a career, find happiness, find success, and see that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Speaking to the neurodivergent community, as they call it, like ADHD, dyslexia, autism, things like that. They're not related, but I think they've all been put under that neurodivergent banner.
Yep.
I remember when I was young, and I couldn't read Harry Potter, so I watched the movies, and I acted like I'd read the book. I put on a big event, and I pulled out the sheet that was going to be the artists that were coming up. And I'm looking at it, and I've organized this whole thing, and I can't tell what it says. I remember I grabbed one of the sound techs, and I was like, who's next? And he was looking at me like, what? I believe, though, if I did not have dyslexia, I would have turned out to be a jerk. Dyslexia keeps me humble because it reminds me of that I have some weaknesses, I have some challenges. And I would say invest in what you're good at. I really credit my parents. They are incredible people. And my father, when I was young, he would tell me, Benjamin, you're going to have to work twice as hard as other people. But you can talk. That is what you're good at. Double down on that. Learn how to, talk and how to give speeches, how to do public speaking, how to talk with people individually. And only recently, maybe in college, I'm 25 now, but about to be 26 in a few days. But only, later in life did I learn if you let other people talk, they'll talk more to you. So yeah, a crazy, crazy insight. But I would say that double down on what you're good at. Find something to take pride in. I was a very jealous person before the business. And only once the business had some success and I proved that I could actually do something, did that jealousy evaporate. Finding what you're good at, double down on that, whether that's a sport, whether that's a subject in school, whether that's, something like Taekwondo, it was for me, that I could do well at. And that showed me that, no, I wasn't a complete, quote unquote, loser. And then try to adapt whatever technologies the quote unquote readers, whatever they're using. Voice to text became big. Back in the day when it was just Dragon Naturally Speaking, it wasn't ideal. It was good for the time, but it wasn't ideal. But when a technology became widely adopted, that is when, if you can adapt the technology to your needs, that's extremely helpful. And I'm become very active in the dyslexic community. I gave a talk at the International Dyslexia Association's large summit, their yearly meet. And that is one of the biggest takeaways. Adapt to technologies that people are using and watch out for snake oil salesmen. There is no cure for dyslexia. It's who you are. Admit it to yourself and then work in those parameters. But I'll tell you this to any students listening, high school can be tough. High school can be really tough. Back then, I didn't have many friends. I was the weird kid who talked too much about history and science. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. College will be better. And then, hey, once you're out of that, if you work hard and you're able to make things happen for yourself, then it's going to be okay. So don't lose heart. Don't lose hope. Be nice to your parents because they love you. And yeah, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. Keep marching forward.
That's lovely. It's lovely, Benjamin. So thank you for that. And hopefully people feel inspired by that if they're going through something, whatever that is. I'm going to wrap it up here, Benjamin. You've got to choose a different career. What are you going to choose and why?
Oh my goodness. If I had to pick a different, that is tough. I genuinely do like what I do. That is tough. A cop-out answer would be, I'd say I'd be a YouTuber, but that would be great. But no, I would say that if I had to pick a different career, I one day might even do this, but I really enjoy politics. It's been my dream, my end game, to go into politics. I love it. And it's a lot like putting on an event, but different. So perhaps not the best answer. I would say I would avoid anything with reading if I had to pick a different career. Probably sales. You make good money. Probably is a heck of a lot easier than what the sales that I have to do, and I'd probably even make more. But sales or politics. And I just want to thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure, and I always love any opportunity to talk to students or things like that because I know it was a tough time for me, and happy to talk to anybody about that.
Excellent. Thanks for the kind words. So Benjamin, if someone wants to reach out, ask a question, follow you on social, check out more about you, we'll link it in the show notes, but throw out some good ways for someone who wants to get a hold of you. The best
way is Instagram, at Benjamin_Shrader. And then I've got an email linked in the bio there. I'd say it off, but I'd probably mess it up. And if you need to reach out via email, that works too. But Instagram DMs is probably the best, at Benjamin_Shrader. No C in the last name. My father would say it was cheaper without the C. And so yeah, Instagram is by far the best way. Everything else, I might miss it. So that's probably the best.
Excellent. Benjamin Shrader, everyone, CEO of Shrader Promotions. Hope you learned something in today's episode. I know I did. If you want to explore other careers or share your career with us, we'd love to have you. Check out our website for more info. And until next time, can't ever get this right, and I used to say it every single day. Until next time, be kind to one another.
Unboxing careers, unboxing.